Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel or my podcast on HotBean. If you're listening to me there, on YouTube I am Megan Dawson, Ethereal Orb Art, and on HotBean, the name of the podcast is Fluid Art Fanatic. So you can find me there. Just the podcast episodes will be on HotBean, and this one should be up at the same time the YouTube video is up, unless I have technical difficulties with HotBean. Not expecting that, but I've only uploaded one episode so far, so just in case I have a glitch or something, it might be late, but it should be up at the same time. So I'll be putting my podcast on HotBean. If you're not familiar with it, it's an app on you can get on Android or Apple, and you can also get it just on a computer. The reason for putting the podcast on HotBean is just so that you can listen if you so choose instead of sit here and watch the video. I know when I do housework, I like to put in a podcast and stick a little earphone in one of my ears and clean while I listen to something. It helps me focus, which is an issue of mine. So it keeps me distracted enough to where I can get everything I need done. Well, maybe not everything I need done, but some of the things I need done, and I stay entertained. So, anyway, you can go look for me on HotBean and follow me there. I'll put a link in the description bar on my YouTube video to the podcast on HotBean. And I'm new to HotBean, but I probably can put a link to my YouTube channel on HotBean somewhere in case you found me on HotBean. You've got to bear with me on this technology stuff. I'm a very so anyway, so I should be able to do that. If not, I'm Ethereal Orb Art. I'm Megan Dawson, Ethereal Orb Art. Sorry, I just changed my YouTube channel name to have my actual name on there. Just to keep things, I don't know, just so that I was, Anyway, I digress and I can't finish my sentence. It is early in the morning. I was going to record this last night, and I probably should edit that part out where I can't get my sentence out. I don't think I'm going to. It's more fun this way. So anyway, I was going to film this last night. All my kids were in bed except my 14-year-old around 8:30. They were all asleep. And then I remembered that my daughter is doing her school. We homeschool. She was doing school in the evening, late evening. She's a night owl, so she doesn't get tired. Otherwise, I wouldn't allow it. But anyway, our local schools are out, so she is doing her school at night so that she can have the day to play. Well, she had about 2 hours of work to do, and she looked at me. I was tired. She looked at me and she said, "Are you tired?" I guess it was at 9 o'clock at this point. I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "You really look tired." Okay, so maybe I'll just go to bed early and get up early and hope everybody sleeps in. So it is early here. Everybody's asleep, and hopefully they will stay asleep. And if not, we'll have to work around it, I guess. So all that to say, I don't know what I'm saying because it's early. Let me have some caffeine. Too early for me for coffee, so I'm doing the Pepsi thing. So anyway, today's episode, we will get to that. First of all, today's episode is about balance. Somebody asked a question on my last podcast about balancing art and pouring, and for those of us who make videos, she was asking about time to make videos and editing and all of that. So first I thought that was kind of funny because I am so off balance. I probably shouldn't even be able to sit on a chair. But I think it is an important thing to talk about. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But first, we're going to play a game with my podcasts. And you can do this with all of my podcasts. So you can probably even do this with some of my pouring videos. Sad to say, but chocolate game, whatever your favorite is, every time I mention a movie, you get to eat a piece of chocolate or a piece of brownie or bite of pie. I just thought it might be fun because I mention movies a lot. So, and who doesn't want more chocolate in their lives? So listen to my podcast, watch my podcast, and eat chocolate. How's that? So anyway, balance. Okay, I'm not very good at balancing time. So I'm probably either the worst person to talk about it or the best person to talk about it because I don't know if I've read the book, Sidetracked Home Executives, and they're like the least organized, writing a book about how to organize your house and your cleaning schedule. And they said they're the best at it because, well, they didn't put it that way. They put it a little more humbly. But because they weren't born organized, they can tell people how to organize who aren't born organized because the born organizers just do it and they think everybody should be able to do it. So maybe somebody who's totally off balance can talk about how to try and be balanced. I don't know. So anyway, first piece of chocolate, get ready, unwrap your chocolate. One of my favorite movie lines is from Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, where Gandalf is talking to Bilbo. I'm sorry if you're not a Lord of the Rings geek, just bear with me. And he's talking about feeling old, and he said, feels like butter scraped over too much bread. And that's how I describe my life right now. There's too much bread, and there's not enough butter. There's not enough of me to go around for everything I need to do every day. So it's kind of silly. So anyway, but that's sort of how I feel. There's not enough the butter scraped over too much bread, and some days more so than others. So balancing the everything I need to do and like to do with being able to paint and do the videos, I think that's important for all of us because I'm not the only person that's busy. I'm not the only person that, gets up in the morning and, is like, gosh, where's my breathe time? We all have lives, we all have stuff going on. And finding time to create sometimes gets put on the back burner. I know it did for me a lot of times. And sometimes it's necessary and sometimes you can sort of fit it in. But for those of us who creating is important, and I think it is to more people than people realize, making the time, I think, is very important. And so I started pouring before my fourth baby was born, just before he was born, and I was pregnant. So obviously I had to take a break right after he was born. Nobody can do anything with a newborn. But I started up sooner than I probably should have or, was ready to. And I found that with a crazy house with 4 kids, a newborn, that even though I wasn't getting enough sleep, some nights when I got everybody into bed, when that happened, I needed to paint instead of sleep. I couldn't paint. I kind of found a balance. I knew I couldn't paint totally exhausted. I learned that a couple times, and it didn't really do anything to kind of get that creativity out. But I could paint tired, and I could get up the next day and be like, felt like a person, you know what I mean? Felt like I did something for me. So it became this kind of need to, if that makes sense, kind of, this is just important as some other things, so I'm going to make the time. This is getting to be a very serious podcast. I didn't intend it to be. But anyway, so, but I think it's important. I really do, finding this balance and making the time. And whether it's pouring or any other art form or any creative outlet. I know my husband, you've seen probably him, I think he's done 2 videos, and he's poured a few other times. He is, first and foremost, artistically a musician. He also enjoys dabbling in writing short stories. And the interesting thing is when he's doing one of those things, he can't do the other 2 well. Well, he could do it well. He could pick up a guitar and sing, but the creativity part doesn't, flow quite as much. So anyway, I find that very interesting. So whatever it is that floats your boat creatively, artistically, you know, finding that time. For me, the time to do it right now is when I get everybody put to bed. I get everybody put to bed. My husband goes to bed early because he gets up way before the crack of dawn for work, and the dogs go to bed with him. So I can do a video knowing that I'm most likely not going to get interrupted by noise. My 14-year-old is off doing her own thing anyway. So, but my little ones are in bed. The dogs aren't click-clacking through the floor or barking at things. And it's just me. And that's part of it too. It's just me. And about making the videos, because I think, you know, that adds a dimension of time, not really to the creative process or to the art part, but it adds time. And she asked, the person that was asking, I should have double checked her name. Should have done that. She was asking about the videos also and the editing. And I will say, because get your next piece of chocolate ready, I'm a big fan of Forrest Gump's One Less Thing. If you're not familiar with that movie, you know, when he finds out he's made all this money and his mom says, well, now we don't have to worry about money anymore. And he said, that's good because one less thing. So I'm a big fan of One Less Thing. And I don't care what that one less thing is. I'm a big fan. One less thing on the to-do list. I don't care how big or small it is. One less errand. Walmart now has grocery pickup. That's one less thing. Huge fan of the one less thing. So videoing was one more thing. Editing is one more thing. I just added HotBean. That's one more thing. And actually, I was messaging with my mom last night, and she said something, and it made me think of Etsy. And I said, I need to update my Etsy shop. One more thing. So the videoing. I will say that I started videoing on a suggestion on Facebook. Somebody request. Somebody said how she wanted to know how I did it, and I thought the best way to do it was video it. The only way I knew how to upload a video was to do it on YouTube. So there it started, and it kind of snowballed from there. And the actual videoing of the process doesn't really add any more time very much. I might be able to do it faster if I wasn't talking, maybe not. But I do things very simply because I'm, for one, a one less thing person, and for two, a very, very slow technology learner. I keep it simple. I just use my phone and I just hit record. I know there's better ways to do it. There are people who do, you know, 2 cameras and it looks beautiful and wonderful and much more professional than my videos. Maybe someday I'll figure it out. I have a large canvas. I'm going to have to figure it out because I have a large canvas I want to do, and I need to figure out a 2 camera thing because it's so big. You won't be able to see. I don't know. I thought it would be better to have a 2 camera thing. So I'm going to have to figure that out. So I keep the recording very simple. And as far as editing goes, one of my goals this year was to learn the editing software, and I've come a long way, for me, I've come a long way in learning that. So that was kind of cool, but also compared to other people, I keep the editing very simple. Again, probably not as professional, maybe not as fun to watch. Hopefully I'm just as fun. But but anyway, I don't do a lot of editing because I don't have the 2 cameras. I've tried a little bit with the color grading when it's dark. I'm not great at that yet, but I don't spend forever having to put the 2 cameras together, and I don't clip. I don't do a lot of fast forward stuff, although I do a little. So I keep it simple because of the one less thing. And because I don't have time to sit and edit for hours. at this time in my life, I don't. Maybe in a few years, I will. Or maybe if this takes off a little bit more and I can take something else off my plate, maybe that, is something, I don't know. But at this point, that's how I balance. I don't do a ton of editing. I keep my videos recording very simple, and I try and just have fun. And I think it's just, the importance for me of finding the time. And I realize, everybody's different. Everybody's busy is different, looks different, is on different busy schedules than mine. But I don't know. I just think it's very important to make the time, not necessarily find the time, but to make the time. I've done several things. I used to Zentangle. That's something I really enjoy because it's very zen. I'm not naturally zen. I'm very laid back. I'm not like the type A woo personality. But my brain is not very zen. My brain is always going 10 miles an hour. We were doing something, my husband and I were doing something. We were talking about one thing. We had like I think a nature thing on TV. It wasn't anything that we were actually watching and listening to. And he mentioned something, and then I got off track onto something else. We started talking. Somebody mentioned Moffat, Scotland, because my great-grandmother was a Moffat, and there's a Moffat, Scotland, where if you go way, way back in my genealogy, my family is from way back. So anyway, then I thought, I wonder what houses go for in Moffat, Scotland. No plans to move to Scotland. No, even potential of moving to Scotland. So then I'm looking, showing my husband the computer. Hey, look at this. And he's just like, what? Where are you going? He said, your brain is like a ferret with ADD. So my brain is not zen, but Zentangling kind of is zen. Pouring, actually, I'd like to hear your opinions. What do you think pouring is zen and relaxing? Because I think it is. And I even when I'm talking out loud, when I'm doing the videos, there's something very centering about it. I'm not thinking about 10 million things all at once like I usually am. I don't know, it's interesting. Although I find if I go back and watch the videos, I think differently about my process than I did when I was doing it. And if you don't do YouTube, it might be interesting to video some of your pours at times, and watch them and see your process, because it's really kind of interesting, because I think you get really in the moment of pouring, and well, I do, maybe not everybody else. And it's like I'm pouring, and I go into this mode of, I don't know, and I'm not really thinking the way I would think about it if I was watching it, which is interesting. Because I know I've had some comments on my videos. Did you see this at such and such time in your painting? Or I really liked it here, and then you kept going. You kept fiddling with it. Or, did you notice it did this? And I'll go back and like, no, I didn't notice that. So you see different things watching it than you do when you're doing it. So it's an interesting thing to record. Like I said, not necessarily if you don't want to put it up on YouTube, but to watch for yourself. It's also a great record keeper. I used to have an art journal. I'm terrible at keeping art journals. I'm terrible at keeping journals. I start them and then I forget about them, or I don't take the time. But before I started the YouTube channel, I was trying to write down what colors I used, what process I used, such and such. And I actually just found the page for my my perspective. It's on my Etsy page. It looks like Earth. It's an oval. And I didn't do what I thought I did at all. It was way back in the beginning, before I was doing any kind of dirty pours or flip cups or anything. It was way, way back. So anyway, I didn't do what I thought I did, though. So interesting. So I may try and recreate that, or at least use the same process and see what happens. So it's a good record keeper. And like I said, I have, here, hang on a second. Okay, so since I had to get up anyway, I thought I'd grab this. This is Perspective. Has resin on it, so super shiny. Ended up looking like Earth from space, which I don't think was my plan at the time, but Anyway, I really liked it, and I thought, what did I do? And the colors were completely different than what I would have used if I were trying to recreate it without my notes. So notes can be good. But anyway, I wanted to show you just for fun, because I was talking about how I try and keep it easy peasy. And, ooh, and I just folded a skin that I brought to show you, and now it's sticking to itself. Okay, so this is how I record. Okay, this is a vase with rice and a selfie stick. Okay, you cannot get any easier. It was like free other than the selfie stick because I had the rice in my cupboard and the vase in my cupboard, and it has paint on it and some resin on it. But anyway, so that's my super classy recording style. By the way, just to show you how my mind works, I guess. I got a new computer in March, and when I was reading reviews on computers, on this one in particular, it said that it's fine, the camera's great or okay, which I wasn't planning on doing podcasts at all when I bought the computer, and it said the camera's fine if you don't mind people looking up your nose. It said the way the camera's set up, people are looking right up your nose. So I had this nightmare, not really a nightmare. I had this dream last night that I was recording this podcast for you guys, and you were looking right up my nose. And it wasn't pleasant. So I'm glad that because I'm short or whatever, you're not looking right up my nose. Or because I have the screen. I don't know. Maybe for really tall people. I'm 5'2". So anyway, I want to show you, if you watched my dip, when was that? Was that last week? If you watched my dip painting the other day, I was going to dip another canvas in it, but I liked the skin, so I decided not to. Oh, it's not picking it up very well. So I'm thinking, and I've left it whole. I was able to peel it up because there's quite a bit of paint. Here's the back. Have you ever tried to pour a pretty back of a skin? I have. It's actually more difficult than you might think. So anyway, I digress. There's my skin. And I'm thinking I might want to cut this one up into squares instead of making jewelry with it, although there's some areas that would be really pretty for jewelry or something like that. But I'm thinking about maybe cutting it up into squares and doing some kind of mosaic. If any of you have done a mosaic, let me know in the comments how that worked out, because I could even use some of this. Some of the back isn't bad. This is interesting right here. See those lines? Ugh. Okay, not very good at aiming on this computer or on this camera. There we go. You can sort of see them. They're not coming through very well. I thought maybe that would be interesting. So I don't know. It's just something I'm thinking about. Maybe on a tile, doing a mosaic. I have a bunch of skins. Well, not a bunch anymore because I did make a bunch of jewelry. But so I could add to it. And of course, every time I pour, I get more. This was the dip I did where I don't know what was going through my head. I haven't done a dip in a long time. I'm going to do another one here coming up. But I did stripes like I was going to do a swipe. So it didn't come out. It did come out pretty, but not quite as interesting because for some reason I was doing stripes of paint. I don't know. But this part is really cool. So that's on, if you did not see it and you want to see it, that's on my YouTube channel as well. Under dip, I think I called it. Acrylic poured dip. So I'm going to do another one of those coming up. And like I said, I have a big canvas I want to do, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do for that. I'd love to get a giant canvas. My husband brought me home a 5-gallon bucket. That would be kind of fun to do a big, huge flip cup or dirty pour. Like do a big, huge flip cup, but that's going to take some coordination that I don't have. So I need somebody to help me with that. Not coordinated, not balanced. I have some things going for me, but those are not it. Like, you know, I'm distracted because I matched my wall. I'm not in my dining room because I was afraid my voice would carry to the bedrooms and wake everybody up. Oh, mom's up. That means we should be up. So I'm kind of hiding in a corner in my living room. Hobby Lobby tree. So anyway, I guess that sort of wraps it up. I'm trying to think if there's anything interesting that I watched. Gosh, we're right in the middle of T-ball. I haven't even watched any videos lately, which is terrible. I love watching the videos. So, share away anything that you're really interested in, anything you want to see on the podcast, any questions you have, something you want to talk about, pouring wise, pouring related, even if it's almost pouring related. This is just a place to kind of turn at, when my mom said something about the knitting podcasts and she shared some with me, I still watch the Fat Squirrel Speaks or listen on Podbean, which she does her videos on. She puts her videos on Podbean. I know how to put audio on Podbean. Not sure how to do the videos on Podbean, but I thought that was interesting. But anyway, she where was I going with this? Oh, the community. The knitting community is actually a community. They seem to all really interact, and the podcasts are very little about knitting, some more than others. Fat Squirrel Speaks is a lot of other stuff, just fun stuff, just getting to know you stuff, and let's just chat and become friends kind of thing. And I thought the acrylic pouring community could use that, just more of a community feel, because there are a lot of us now. We're all on Facebook, and it's kind of nice to just kind of get to know each other and get to be kind of a community. I know they have their own, they're fancy Nancy. They have their own Facebook. It's Ravelry. One of the two. I'm sure it's a knitting term that I don't know. So anyway, they have their own, secret club. But they all seem so nice. It almost makes me want to take up knitting. I know how to knit. I can knit a rectangle really well. You start throwing patterns at me, and I have to keep track of how many I have, and you start using actual knitting terms, as opposed to just sitting there and knitting and then going down and knitting a row and going down and knitting a row. You add terms and stuff, and I'm like, but I can knit rectangles, which I suppose I could make a rectangular blanket that way. I'm not sure I ever made anything that big. That's not something that my brain stops when I do. So unless I guess watching a movie, I don't know. Anyway, it makes me want to knit. And it really makes me want to go out and buy yarn, because she has her yarn behind her. And I know it's silly that I don't knit and I watch a knitting podcast, but she's hilarious. If you haven't heard of her, haven't watched her, go watch her. She's hilarious. You will laugh and laugh and laugh. But anyways, she has her yarn behind every now and then. At the very end, she'll show something she's working on or show some yarn. And it's so pretty. It makes me want to go buy yarn. And I don't need yarn, so I'm not going to buy yarn. Maybe I'll buy some no, that would be a waste. So say pretty yarn and do a string pour. Maybe I'll just do a string pour in honor of the Fat Squirrel Speaks. I think that's a good idea. But I will not use good expensive yarn, because that would be a waste. But anyway, yarn is very pretty. And I decided maybe I need a wall of yarn. No, I don't need a wall of yarn. I don't need a wall of yarn. Same thing with somebody was showing me their fabric. They make bags. She makes bags. Our neighbor, wonderful, wonderful people. She showed me the bags she was making. I love fabric. I used to quilt. Okay, not a lot, but I used to quilt, and I loved it. But that's not something I can do in short spurts of time, like painting. So I haven't in a while. But anyway, sorry, way off track. Weaver Fever. I've been trying to think of that quilt block name for days. Weaver Fever. Anyway, I have a quilt that's about, I don't know, 2/3 finished out in my garage that someday will get finished. It's Weaver Fever. But I love fabric. Same thing. I don't quilt. I don't sew anything. But I love fabric. Going to a fabric store and just looking at all the fabric. So I get distracted easily. But painting, pouring, keeps me very zen and focused, and my brain isn't going. And the funny thing is, I don't even know that I'm thinking about the painting. So for that reason, I enjoy it very, very much. So let me know why you paint, why you started, why you keep going, what you love about it. Any questions you have for our next podcast to discuss. What you'd like to talk about, mediums, paint brands, issues you're having when you're pouring. If there's something. One thing I did see, I'm going to mention it just real quick because I think it's also important since we're having kind of a serious podcast moment today. Something I see surprisingly often. I'm not going to say I see it all the time, but more often than I guess I would have thought if somebody were to ask me if I would have ever thought about it. Anyway, I see a lot of times, when do I give up? I'm not getting the results I want. I don't like what I'm pouring. Is it okay to give up? When do I give up? First of all, I'm not a never give up person. If you don't like it, if you're not enjoying it, try something else. I've cross stitched, I've knitted, I've Zentangled, which is, because that's something you can pick up at, moment's notice. But anyway, quilted, cross stitched, knitted, other things, and none of them have stuck like paint pouring has. And I think there's reasons for that, and probably some that I don't even know. And I think if I like told myself I can't give up this hobby or I can't give up this, I probably wouldn't have ever might have found it, but I might not have started it, because every hobby has, an expense. And you can't do everything. So if something, you're not feeling it, if you thought, I love the look of these, I thought I was going to enjoy it, I'm not loving it, and you want to try something different, I'm not the first person to say, oh, don't ever give up, don't ever give up. Put it down and come back to it if you feel like, it's pulling you. But if it's only because you're not getting the reason, if you're really enjoying the process and you love it and you're not getting the results you want, personally, I'm going to say that's not the time to give up, because it takes time, it takes experience. I think some of us watch my video or my YouTube channel excluded, because I share some pretty bad ones that don't work out so well. But sometimes we watch videos and we're like, that person just always pours something so pretty, or that person gets results that are just, well, first of all, maybe they've been doing it for a very long time. Maybe they haven't, and they have some, luck or some just natural skill or talent. But what you're not seeing sometimes are the ones that aren't so great, or, I know I had one the other day that I was going to put up. I mean, it was awful. The pour was awful, and I was going to post it anyway, because I think that's sometimes important. Look how terrible this turned out. It's a good learning process anyway to see what went wrong, but the video actually was just bad. It was choppy because I had to kind of stop and figure out what was going on, and I thought the video was gonna be bad too, so I'm just not gonna post it. But, we all have bad pours, and sometimes it takes a bit, like that learning curve. There's that quote that I personally love. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. Because for one, if it's worth doing whether you can do it at this level or at this level. Because it's just worth doing for the doing, not for the outcome, but for the doing. And it's also worth doing poorly, because the more you do it, you're going to, get to a higher level with experience and practice. So, keep on keeping on. Ask questions. I know I answer all the questions on YouTube. If you've asked a question and I haven't answered, ask again, because I know that I've seen, I get a notification of a comment, and every now and then I've gone back, because I can't always answer when I get the notification on my phone. And then I can't find it. Well, did the person delete it? Is there a YouTube glitch? is it because I got the notification? So I don't know. So anyway, if you've asked a question I have not answered or commented and I have not responded, because I respond to all of them that I see, commented again, just in case it got, I hear stirring in the back, in case I've missed it, or whatever, comment again. I don't know. Can you comment on Podbean? Something I should know that I don't know. Or comment on Podbean if you can, if you're listening. So, which I will link to both of those again. Is there a description bar in Podbean? I don't know. But anyway, so ask questions if you want to talk about something in the podcast or you're having trouble with something on a pour. I have a Facebook group called Fluid Art Fanatics. I'll have that linked on YouTube, Podbean if possible. And you can join and ask questions there because, it's sometimes it's something silly, and especially on Facebook, you can post a picture as well when you ask your question, and sometimes it's just something really simple that's like, oh, yeah. But we can walk through some of those things together, and I've, still, I know I mentioned it before and I have not done it yet, toying with the whole live idea, to do a pour live. Just haven't figured that out yet. But I think I might, because, like I said, my kids are going to bed. My little one's getting more reliable about bedtime now that he's 2. So, anyway, comments, let me know what you want to see pouring wise, podcast wise, any of those things. Love to hear from you. Let's turn this acrylic pouring community into a community and share and chat and just, get to know each other a little bit. I think it's fun, and I think it creates a different dimension. I know I have the challenge group I'm part of. We get to chat as we're planning our challenges and stuff, and that's become like a little community, and that's become very important to me through this whole process too. That something I never would have imagined when I started my YouTube channel. But anyway, that's become, and it keeps me going. So anyway, just whatever you want to see, whatever you want to chat about. If you just want to say hi, how are you? If you want to share how you balance, maybe you're more balanced than I am. Share away how you keep yourself balanced, because heaven knows I could use more balance. If you're one of those people who are naturally balanced, share away how you, manage your day and all of that. Oh, quick, I should have said this at the very beginning when, anyway, if you look on my Podbean, my little channel art, my daughter did that. I asked my daughter, I said, could you draw me for my Podbean channel art? So she drew me. She did a really great job. She's really great at drawing and sketching and all of that. And the only thing I told her, she went back and did it. She probably rolled her eyes. She's 14. What does she know? She always does highlights, on the hair for where the, you can see, where the light's hitting. And she had it, and I said, would you mind? I said, I know that's your style, and I know it looks great, and I'm not criticizing in any way, shape, or form. It looks wonderful, but I'm old, and on me, it looks like my gray roots. I need to dye my hair. So could you just put a little bit more black on there, please? So it doesn't remind me of my gray roots. So she had a little more black. But she did a great job. It's super, super cute. And so anyway, so she did my little channel art for me. And I guess that's it. I should mention that up front. I'll mention it again in my next one, because I really should give her credit at the beginning, because she really did a great job, and that was pretty cool of her. And I was setting up my Podbean, trying to get it all worked out, and I said, could you do this? And she said, yeah. I said, would you mind doing it today? She's 14. I think was her response. I guess. What are you doing? You're watching drawing videos and you're drawing. Anyway, so just draw this. But she was a good sport about it. So, and actually, I think she drew me in this shirt. This is her favorite shirt. She asked me one time, when I mentioned a long time about drawing characters. She said, well, what's your favorite shirt? And I said, I don't think I have a favorite shirt. She said, well, I have a favorite shirt of yours. I said, you have a favorite shirt of mine? I don't have a favorite shirt. She's more into that than I am. So anyway, so she drew me in this shirt, I think. And I wore it because it is cute. It's her favorite. I don't have a lot of fancy clothes. So I'll say goodbye. Let's stop wasting time. Go pour some paint. Go do something that makes you happy. Eat another piece of chocolate. I'll mention another movie. Monsters, Inc. The first one I could think of. Kids like that movie. Monsters University. Have another bite of that cake. Have another piece of chocolate. Go pour some paint. Go have some fun. Comment below. Let me know you're watching, what you want to see, and we will see you next time, guys. Happy pouring.